wines have reaped many international awards. Same with his hotel, the Movenpick on Mactan Island, Cebu. But that hasn't stopped him from continuously innovating his products and services. Here with us tonight is Mr. Manny Osmeña. Hi, Manny. Welcome to Shop Talk.
Thank you.
All right. Before we get to talking about your wines, we want to talk about your participation in APEC. So not only were your wines served up during the dinners, but earlier in the year, your resort also hosted some of the ministerial meetings.
Yes. Other than being a business serving the APEC ministerial and head of state meetings, it was an honor to be showcased as a Filipino-created product, particularly the wine, which we produce in France, Portugal, Spain, and Italy. And it was also good to see these ministerial meetings in our hotel, that we were able to be part of this event that basically puts the Philippines getting a lot of attention from the global arena.
Right. I think the APEC summit went very smoothly. It's
and very peaceful.
Thank God.
Praise God. I was praying that it would be very peaceful and successful and safe.
Exactly. And the feedback we're getting all around is quite positive. And I'm sure it's such a great honor for my two guests earlier and for you to have been able to participate in something like this. What was the process you had to undergo in order to participate?
Basically, I think the intention came from the team of that was organizing these APEC meetings, that they wanted to showcase that Filipino-created products can be, globally competitive and, could be global winners. And I think as a Filipino, I'm very proud that we were selected to be one of them.
Now, you are actually the blender behind Manny O Wines.
Yes.
Where did you learn this skill of being able to blend wines when it's not something we produce in the Philippines normally?
You're right. I was always told when I started this, even my friends who were drinking wines with me for a long time, they said, how can you market your wine when you don't have a heritage? Because wine, generally, you need a heritage.
Definitely.
It all started when I was still a kid. I never was attracted to toys, and I'm always food or books. So because I love food, I basically do a lot of concoction, creating recipes. Then when I was a teenager, I realized that I have very low alcohol tolerance. So, and my business was in the furniture industry. I was doing business with France, UK, Germany, US, and all over the world. And when in France, they basically entertained me with wines even for lunch. And I discovered that wine is not about the alcohol. It's sophistication, not intoxication. So I fall in love with it. The aromas had an emotional connection to me. That is when I started collecting wine since the late 70s. Until in 2006, I started to produce my own wine. So I started blending and doing some trial blending. Not to realize that the first competition I attended was in Hong Kong, and I immediately won a bronze medal on a blind tasting competition.
Did that surprise you?
It was surprising. It was a welcome thing, but I knew that my wine would work because I was basically blending wines from the old world to fit and pair with the Asian and the new global cuisine, which basically are very delicate cuisine.
Right. So the French, especially, in the centuries-old vineyards and wineries,
yes,
they're very protective about what they do. They're very proud about what they do. What did they think about, this Filipino man coming along saying, okay, I want to blend it. I want to decide how it's going to taste.
Exactly. In fact, I think one of the blessings that I have that I was able to make that entry in 2006, because all these winery people in France particularly have already known me because I've been collecting since the late 70s. So there was a relationship already. And then, and that was the time when the new growth market would be Asia. And everybody wants to sell to Asia. They want to sell to China. Because wine consumption in Europe, France, UK, which is the two biggest countries consuming wines, were flat. The growth were flat. So I guess in God's divine work, I was able to get in fairly easily. But of course, my first vintage, I was not successful, so I decided not to produce it.
Okay.
So I waited for the next vintage. But again, with your question, when I decided that I want to produce wine, I said the first country I want to produce wine has to be France.
Okay.
Because if I can get into France, the rest would be easy.
Right.
Yeah.
And since then, you've been able to innovate and create more wines, and not just from France, but from other countries around the world as well. How important is it to have that diversity and that ability to innovate?
Yeah, I would say wine being a product that you consume with your emotion. The most important thing is the innovation part of it would be to really study the palate of the consuming market you want to focus on. And my focus was the Asian palate, where food are hardly any dairy in the food. While the traditional wine producing countries, their food a lot of them are dairy based. Mm-hmm. So that's why their wines, in white for example, has to taste more acidic, while the red should taste more tannic. If you have a very acidic type of wine for our Asian food, it doesn't pair well.
Okay.
In fact, case in point, the same brand orange juice sold in Asia and sold in the US or UK, the same brand, same company, the formulation is different.
I see.
You see?
Okay.
So I focused, my innovation basically was who's my market.
Right, and you understood that very, very well.
Exactly, being Asian and being somebody who really loves food.
Okay, we mentioned earlier that you are also the owner of Movenpick in Cebu, in Mactan.
Yes.
And that place is, any hotel, any resort, makes its money on the service that
Yes.
it's able to provide. How do you innovate the services within your resort?
I think, again, because service is a personal touch, it's not technology. And as long as the service is sincere, rather than robotic and scripted, the other party can feel it. In fact, that's what we do in our training all the time in our resort in Cebu. Even in our, innovative dining company, which is the Ibiza Beach Club, which I call lifestyle dining plus bespoke entertainment. Mm-hmm. So the service has to come from the heart, simply.
How can you teach that, though?
Alam mo, by nature, that's the beauty with Filipinos. We do things when we are working, even if it's a job, everybody's having fun doing their work. So as management or owner, you just have to make sure that you support them having fun giving the service. So sometimes when the plate is set on the table, it might be slightly crooked, but if the waiter comes with a smile and fixes the crookedness of the plate, you create an interaction with your guest. Rather than make it straight and the guest doesn't feel that you're really having fun on what you do, you walk away, it's very cold. Yeah. So it's innate in us. We are fun-loving people.
That's true, and we are very, very good hosts.
That's why it's incredible. I mean, I live in hotels yearly about 150 days. There's no place like what we have here.
I agree.
Yeah.
Now, you're a big believer in inclusive growth,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How were you able to make that translate in your businesses?
So, like the Manny wine, we decided because I started believing in inclusive